On a recent Sunday morning at St. Anne Roman Catholic Church in Arlington, Virginia, volunteers set up a nonpartisan voter registration table. Massgoers were urged to make sure they would be able to cast their votes in November. Many here see voting as a moral obligation.
I just think everybody should be voting. If you're unhappy with the situation, that's your time to vote, and it starts at the grassroots.
Catholics have been split in recent elections, and with roughly 70 million Catholics in the U.S., that's a lot of potential votes up for grabs.
Catholics are the perennial swing voters in American politics, and so whichever way Catholics go, usually that's the way the presidency goes. And I'd expect that to be true this election, too.
In 2012, Catholics made up a quarter of the electorate, and they were almost evenly divided between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. But when you break it down by race, about 60% of white Catholics voted for Romney, while 75% of Latino Catholics voted for Obama. In the last several elections, Catholics who attend Mass regularly tended to vote more Republican, while those frequently described as cultural Catholics voted more Democratic. Stephen Schneck directs the Institute for Policy Research and Catholic Studies at Catholic University of America.
The political polarization that we all know about between red states and blue states, Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and progressives, that affects Catholics in the pews as well.
I believe in one God.
The church itself has stressed a series of issues that don't fit neatly with either party's platform. Catholic University professor of systematic theology Chad Pecknold says there are certain non-negotiables that revolve around promoting human dignity and the common good.
We don't support Democrats or Republicans. What we do is promote a principle of the person and the principle of the care for the person. And that includes the unborn, that includes the poor, that includes the stranger who comes within our gates, the immigrant.
When you speak about life, it also touches on the immigration and unemployment and women issues, and as well as also the refugee issues. To me, my heart, everything is actually interconnected.
Pope Francis upholds church teaching on social issues such as abortion and traditional marriage, but he has also stressed the moral dimension of a broad array of issues, from immigration to climate change. He hasn't been specific about how that gets worked out in the political arena. For many Catholics, the key question is how much priority to give the issue of abortion. Marjorie Dannenfelser, president of the advocacy group the Susan B. Anthony List, says while many issues matter, abortion should be paramount.
There's no question that without the right to life, you don't have the right to immigrate. When that first dignity is denied, no other dignity is possible. So yes, of course, all of those issues are important, but the foundational issue, and the church agrees with this, is the right to life.
Dannenfelser is heading Donald Trump's pro-life advisory council because of his promises on that issue.
He went from being, frankly, my last choice to my first choice. And why is that? It's because of his policy commitments and his consistent restatement of those.
Because of his previous support for abortion rights, some Catholics don't fully trust Trump's promises. In March, a group of prominent conservative Catholic academics issued a statement calling Trump, quote, manifestly unfit to be president. Meanwhile, many Catholics have also been disappointed by Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Kaine's position. Kaine follows many fellow Catholic Democrats in asserting that he's personally pro-life, but he supports abortion rights.
If you said, I'm personally opposed to racism, but I politically support it, everyone would throw their hands up. But personally opposed, politically supportive is the ticket to the Democratic Party advancement. And so Tim Kaine has decided that that's the price he's willing to pay. But I think that's a sacrifice of his faith and a certain betrayal of his Catholic principles.
For some, the pro-life issue is broader and more complicated than it's often portrayed.
I do not understand how someone can say, well, no abortion, but we're not going to give you health care, we're not going to help you with housing or food. This makes no sense to me, and I think we have to care for those who are already living.
Within the Catholic community, there are strikingly diverse views on the issues that should be emphasized in the pursuit of the common good.
There are very socially conservative Catholics but I think the majority of them are socially progressive, who follow the church's social justice teaching, which says that we should respect the dignity of all people and that we should work for equality for all people.
It's easy to tell which candidate is going to treat folks with the basic dignity and respect that Catholicism teaches. I think that Donald Trump has made it clear that he has deep disrespect for women, for LGBT people, for immigrants, Mexicans, folks all across the spectrum, and I think that Catholic voters are going to take that sort of thing into account.
For the bishops and many lay Catholics, the issue of defending religious liberty is key this election. The bishop's president, Archbishop Joseph Kurtz, released a video.
We also expect public officials to respect the rights of people to live their faith without interference from the state. When faith communities lose this right, the very idea of what it means to be an American is lost.
Some accuse the Clinton campaign of anti-Catholic bias after a series of hacked emails were leaked showing top Clinton advisors appearing to disparage conservative Catholics. The campaign denied any bias. At Catholic University in Washington, the student body reflects the deep political divisions among Catholics right now. Some support Trump.
As a Catholic, I really appreciate someone that is going to stand for life, and that is something that he has pledged to do, so that's important to me.
What's important to me is that the candidate that I support is in line with Catholic social teaching, and I feel that Hillary Clinton is that candidate because she supports unions, she supports immigration reform, she supports maternity and family leave and things like that that are all in line with Catholic social teaching.
I'm actually decided to vote third party. I'm going to be voting for Evan McMullin, independent.
I'm very pro-life, and so I want to side Republican because obviously I would like to see a Supreme Court justice that will defend the right to life and all of that. But on the opposite, I'm also Hispanic, coming from immigrant parents, and so I do believe that we need an immigration reform, and I don't believe that building a wall is the way to do that. So I'm very conflicted.
Indeed, many Catholics, like many Americans overall, say they're unhappy with the presidential candidates this election cycle.
I think that a good number of us find ourselves a little bit at sea, given the ugliness, really, of this presidential campaign. What's a Catholic to do? What's a Christian to do?
Recently on the papal plane, a reporter asked Pope Francis what advice he would give U.S. Catholics wrestling over how to vote. He replied, quote, "Study the proposals well, pray, and choose in conscience." When Schneck gets discouraged, he says he tries to remember the words of Francis during his visit to the U.S. last year.
I reiterate the message of Pope Francis that this world is not a perfect place. It's your job, nevertheless, to engage it. The imperative really is on us to stand up, to be faithful citizens, to bring our values into the public square and do what we can to make this world a better place.
And how millions of Catholics try to do that will have a major impact on the outcome this election day. I'm Kim Lawton in Washington.